So the question is, I noticed clunking from my transmission after flashing.
This is EAS4.
Was this person posting on Facebook yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah.
In the customer.
Yes.
And absolutely spamming Instagram.
Yes.
Okay.
So the concern in theory here is that our transmission tune and ECU tune cause a clunk to appear in the drivetrain when you tap the throttle, pretty much any time, regardless of whether or not any of your transmission mounts have been changed, replaced, diff inserts, etc. The theory here is that our transmission tune, for some reason, creates a clunk.
Yeah, no, that's simply called driveline lash. If all your mounts are good, that's literally just the slack in your driveline. We have a much faster throttle response on purpose, so you have control over your engine's response and output. So yeah, if you're driving along, you just smack the gas, you're going to get a rapid change.
With the supercharger's ability to give instantaneous
anything.
boost.
I mean, with almost any motor, but we take out a lot of the really numbed throttle feel that the OEM tunes have, and a lot of calibrators leave in where it's basically a sponge on the end of the pedal. That also translates into the torque requests, and this can show up in the shifts as well, where it's a crisper shift. There's not a lot. I mean, it's a mechanical lash issue. So I mean,
so if you ever go under your car and you grab the drive shaft and you kind of go back and forth, it clunks, goes chung chung chung. There is this lash in the drivetrain, and all your CV axles have it, and then there's even lash between the gears and the different transmission components. So yeah, I have either experienced this and thought it was perfectly fine, or this person has something much worse than that.
Yeah, and some drivelines, can be a lot worse than others. It depends on
the age and the wear.
The age, the wear, all the components together. It's not. It can be mount related. It can be simply driveline related. It can be anything from a CV joint on its way out to gear lash, in one of the diffs.
But has this person actually changed all their?
The person that brought it up, no. A bunch of other people have entered the conversation and said they have, and it still works.
Yeah, and then some people are saying that the 1-2 shift is harsh. That's again, you're dealing with very high torque multipliers from the engine to the wheels basically because of your gear reduction. So it amplifies all that as well. And yeah, it is a crisper shift, and it can amplify any lash that's there. We can't make drivelines clunk.
There's nothing wrong with whatever sound is happening. There's nothing wrong with it as far as from a mechanical standpoint.
From whatever we're able to do to a driveline, we can't make it clunk.
Yes, we could artificially dumb the throttle down, which is kind of funny because then you've got these like pedal defenders and the what is that called?
Well, there's that stuff. Yeah, there's not the pedal, the sprint booster.
The sprint booster, which actually makes it way faster.
To a point, but that's still dampened with ECU again.
Yeah.
So there's only so much you can do there. But
this is the same as if you were driving I bet manuals do it.
Nope, it's all the same. The ECU dumbs it down. The ECU will walk all that. If you have the same tune on
the manual,
it's
it's going to do it there too. So, no, I mean, if I don't know, I guess we could offer a dumbed down throttle map.
It's been requested.
That seems really silly, considering like how terrible a lot of the transmission tunes on the market are, like barely drivable.
So, some have stated that they only noticed it once they switched from a competitor file.
Well, yeah, they didn't modify any of the dampening, so they've got a much slower, softer response.
So I guess that would be the question: is would you like slower, sloppier throttle? Or are you okay with this sound from your drivetrain?
Someone's saying same TCU in the manual. No, we're simply trying to tell you it's isolated. It's not necessarily the TCU that's doing it. It's the driveline lash you're dealing with. So.
Right. That actually proves the point.
That's the guy. They want that far.
Well, I think I just did.
Yeah.
So if people have feedback on that, I mean, I don't know if we'll do it because.
And I mean, it's one of those things, like some people are saying like it's random in 1-2. Yeah, the DSGs are very particular with temperatures, with
whatever inputs,
run conditions, with the OEM files can be pretty dramatically different on what the shift feels like.
Also, how is this like a thing now after like these
I know
TCU tune's been on the market for like 4 years.
This is blowing up. because I mean, 99% of the other files out there just slip massively between shifts, and I guess
Right.
that's less of an issue.
Maybe we should have just been bragging about this for the last 4 years. Then it would be like a feature, I mean, it is technically a feature.
They want confirmation / clarification that the harsh shifts aren't bad inherently, and that the lash isn't bad.
Well, it depends on the vehicle. I mean, we can't diagnose mechanical.
No, okay.
Symptoms.
Let me answer that clearly. That there is nothing wrong with what our TCU tune does. Any sound you hear is from your drivetrain, is from the inherent slop and lash in the various drivetrain components, which builds and is additive throughout the drivetrain. Now, could you have excessive lash in your drivetrain? Yes. Could you have a worn out CV joint? Yes. Could you have a worn out drive shaft center bearing? Could there be components in your transmission that are worn that are increasing the amount of lash or slop? Yes, that's possible. We're not here to diagnose those problems for any given car. But what we can say is on a car with a normal, brand new, let's just say a brand new drivetrain, like a brand new B8S4, would make this sound because of the speed and accuracy with which our TCU tune shifts and the removal of the throttle damping. So what throttle damping means is you push the throttle down and the ECU says, there's some drivetrain lash and people's butts have gotten really tender. So why don't we slow down the throttle opening? So we say, no, people's butts are just fine. They want to go fast. So we reprogram that. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's supposed to be like that.
You don't even have to hit the throttle to go faster. Just tap it and it makes a clunking sound. Yes, it's because the engine's transitioning from accel to decel.
Right.
That's literally hitting the gas to make it go faster.
But if the engine doesn't produce any torque, then nothing can happen in the drivetrain. The drivetrain is just along for the ride. So yes, when you tap the throttle, your engine sends torque into the drivetrain, and it loads up that lash in the drivetrain. There's nothing wrong with it. And again, we've never had a failure associated with this or a problem, and no one's even brought this up until now. I mean, it's literally been years, years and years of selling this tune. So if people want to know if there's anything wrong with it, no, we do it on purpose, and it's not hurting anything. But I mean, if you want to be able to
just drive down the street tapping on your, tapping to the beat of the music, I guess you need like the stock mapping to kind of get all that out. But a pedal response on the accelerator, we feel, should translate into action at the wheels. So
that's how a sports car is.
Tapping on the gas even a little bit, that should translate to a little bit of something happening in the driveline. So
now if you have blown motor mounts, which is very common on this chassis, like literally your engine is not attached to the motor mount and it's just kind of bouncing on there, then this will be greatly amplified. Or if you have a bad transmission mount, there are. It's hard to say like one clunk is not the same as another. So
yeah, stuff like this is really hard for us to also diagnose with any kind of certainty.
We have no idea.
We're just giving you a lot of things to that it could be.
Someone's saying there's a clunk. That's what we know.
Yeah.
But
it could be the bottle of propane in the back of your trunk. We've had similar things that have been clunks that people have been trying to diagnose.
If you want an awesome example of a car that does this, go drive like a GT3 RS. Like it's like bam, boom, bam, boom, and then like noises, and that's how those cars are. So they're not damping the throttle. They don't do that, because that's not what's best for driving fast. But we are creating a smooth linear power band.
It's not to be confused with the amount of power per pedal.
It's
input.
the throttle
It's the actual response. So as you move that pedal in finite rapid movements, you get finite rapid results. Requests from the ECU.
Yeah, but we're not necessarily opening the throttle a lot more. To Nate's point, when your foot hits the throttle, how fast does the ECU respond? Is what we're optimizing. So.
He asks if it's the clutches engaging or disengaging.
The clutches are generally, are engaged. You're in a DSG.
When you're in a gear, they're engaged, and you're rolling. They only disengage when you stop.
If you want to explain Lash, maybe like gear lines of gears.
Yeah, well, like I said, in the drive shaft, there is there is inherent slop.
Yeah, I don't know if you could hear Nick's question. He was asking if we could explain more to what lash is and driveline lash.
Yeah. So when power leaves the crankshaft, it goes through the flywheel and into no, like on a manual transmission, it goes into the clutch. The clutch can disconnect the drivetrain from the engine when you depress the clutch pedal. But there is no solid connection from the crankshaft to the tires.
Yeah.
I didn't even know how there could be, right? So what you have is a transmission, which is filled with gears, and these gears interface. And every gear set has lash. So if gears interface too tightly, they will wear each other out and destroy each other very quickly. And if they're too far apart and there's too much lash, then they will also destroy each other. So there is a spec for any gear that allows a certain amount of lash, which is also takes into account the type of fluid and viscosity that you run, and so there's this amount of slop between all the gears and all the drivetrain components, and this extends into the drive shaft. There is a CB joint on each end that has lash. There's a center bearing with a U joint in it, and that can have lash.
Well, all the way in, even directly behind the motor, there's your dual mass flywheel.
The dual mass flywheel, which DSGs have, has lash built into it. So the friction surface and the flywheel itself, do this. And then the differential has lash, and then your rear CVs have lash. So there is no solid connection. And if you've ever seen a race car, they kind of throw NVH out the window, and so at idle the gears are just like that sound you hear when there's that race car, like a real race car, like a Porsche from the 80s. All the gears are just rattling against each other. The drivetrain lash, there's no damping whatsoever, and that's because those cars use dog gears, so the gears are straight cut and they just interface directly. Road vehicles use synchromesh gears, and so when you've seen gears that are helical, and so they interface at angles to each other, that reduces the NVH and to a degree the lash. But lash is normal. It's built into the drivetrain because the drivetrain is not one solid assembly. Your bike chain has lash. Any device,
basically any moving part has to push or pull something else.
Any mechanized vehicle. Electric cars can optimize it because they can get rid of a lot of those drivetrain components.
Just
a lot of them don't even have
components of lash, but
they don't even have transmissions.
Yeah, but you still got CVs. You still got
So there's some there. But yeah, this lash is normal, and what the OEMs do to minimize the effects, or even the fact that almost nobody even knows about this, is that they dampen the throttle so that when power hits the transmission, it slowly loads it up over a period of time, and that allows those gears to slowly engage each other before they're engaged. Now when you whack it with power, instead of bringing it slowly, those components ramp up faster. It doesn't hurt them, or it's not reducing the life of anything. If you don't like the way it sounds, I can't argue with that.
No, so much of it, and it may come down to just relearning how to drive a car with a little different, strategy on that too. Where tapping the gas or doing, abrupt inputs is going to get you an abrupt output. It's tough to tailor it both ways.
Yeah. All right, let's keep moving forward.